So we're moving into Chapter 3. This is Governmental Accounting. And in Chapter 3, hopefully you have read through the chapter and done your Learn Smart, and so you're somewhat familiar with what we do in here. But in Chapter 3, we start with journal entries, and we start looking at how we put financial statements together. And on page 74, they introduce you to the structure and characteristics of the general fund and other governmental funds. And then on page 76, they give you an illustration of a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. And so similar to what we used to do with an income statement in financial accounting. And then on page 77, there's a really, really good illustration of the comparison of what we do in financial accounting to governmental accounting. So I'm going to jump on over to problem number 3-22 on page 108 and just kind of talk you through some of the terminology so that you can start becoming familiar with this new accounting that we're doing. And so in this one, it's asking us to record an adopted budget. So the town of Willingdon has adopted the general fund budget, which means they have voted and everyone's agreed, and it's for the fiscal year beginning July 1st. And they give you estimated revenues, which again, terminology you need to be getting used to: taxes, intergovernmental revenues, licenses and permits, fines and forfeits, miscellaneous revenues, and then appropriations, which goes to general government, public safety, public works, health and welfare, and miscellaneous. So they ask us to prepare general journal entries to record the adopted budget at the beginning of the fiscal year and to show entries in the subsidiary ledger accounts as well. And so I want you to make sure you look back at your illustrations. They're so important that you understand how these journal entries work, and there's really good journal entry examples in your book. And so you can look back at page 87 is where we start talking about that, and we start looking at those journal entries. And so I'm going to kind of follow along in the book, but I'm going to show you like this particular problem, what this would look like. And so for the first, let me get to the right problem. I'm looking at the wrong problem. That would not be good. Okay, so this is the town of Willingdon. Something to remember: fiscal year ends, what did they tell me? June 30th. And so, actually, since we're doing a budget, I'm going to say fiscal year begins July 1st. And so the way I'm going to set this up is very similar to the way they did it in the book. And just a side note, this problem is going to help you with your homework. So we have a continuation in your homework. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a general ledger right here. I'm going to merge and center. And obviously you'll be doing your homework in Connect, so you won't have to worry about what I'm doing here. But one thing I do recommend to all my students is to do your homework on paper first. And then go into Connect. I just think sometimes you get overwhelmed with Connect and you forget to learn what it is we're trying to learn. And so I often, if people tell me they have trouble navigating Connect, I'll tell them just do it on paper first. Make sure that you understand what you're doing. So our estimated revenues, and then I'm going to go ahead and copy this over. I think it will let me do this. Yeah. And we're going to call this our subsidiary ledger. And you should remember what a subsidiary ledger is from financial accounting. You've seen those before. Often you'll see them with accounts receivable and accounts payable for our clients. That's a pretty common place to see them. Okay, so estimated revenue $16,650,000, and appropriations $16,600,000, and there's a difference between the two, and so that's going to be our budgetary fund balance. Now remember, revenues, normally when you record a revenue, you record a credit. But we've got estimated revenues over here, because what we're going to do is use that up, basically. One way to think about that. Now, there's no subsidiary ledger entered at this point. And so then we have our estimated revenues ledger, and we have taxes, and we have intergovernmental revenues. We have licenses and permits. We have fines and forfeits. Oops. And we have miscellaneous revenues. Go ahead and add that on there. And those are going to go in our subsidiary ledger. And so we've got them over here on our debit column, because the subsidiary is just a breakdown of this number right here. So we're breaking this down. Okay. And then we've got 1,400,000, 150,000, and 100,000. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure to show this differently so you see that. Okay, then we have an appropriations ledger. In the next couple chapters, we're going to see how all this fits together. And then we're also going to be opening up our practice set, where you'll get to work on this throughout the semester on one city, which I think is really going to be a good learning tool for you. I've been playing in it. I'm almost done, and I'm really enjoying it. So in our appropriations ledger, we have a breakdown of this number. And so we've got 8 million, 6 million, 1.550 million, 950,000, and 100,000. So that is it. That's what our journal entries look like, and that's how we record the budget. It's very simple and straightforward. And if you had software, you would just simply be doing these journal entries. Oh, it won't let me do that. Oh, I guess it will. Kinda. I know what I did wrong. If you're not familiar with Excel, you really need to become familiar with Excel. That's one of the things that the employers tell us they're looking for, is accounting students who have a strong knowledge of Excel. So, all right, well, that's it. That's all you do to record a budget. So that's the end of this video. I'll move on to another problem for Chapter 3. Thank you.